Chosen one, what you just glimpsed was never meant for you, but God allowed you to see it anyway. He revealed more than he should have, and that truth is dangerous for ordinary minds. If you're watching this right now, it's not a coincidence. Something powerful is stirring in your life, and the rules you've been living by are about to break. Most people go through life blind, trapped by invisible limits they never question. But you sensed it, the feeling that life was bigger than what you've been taught. That awareness wasn't random, it was preparation. God is removing the barriers you can no longer rise above, and once they're gone, there's no turning back. Your reality is about to respond to you in ways that will shock others and overwhelm anyone who isn't aligned like you. Old methods won't work. Effort alone won't move you. Trying harder is pointless. Doors will open without asking. Timing will snap into perfection. Situations that once resisted you will bend effortlessly to your clarity. The confusion, the pressure, the isolation, they're all signs. They are not punishment. They are the signals that your life is being elevated to a level where ordinary rules no longer apply. Do not scroll. Do not skip. Do not underestimate this moment. Like this video, subscribe, and comment 99 to declare your presence and signal your alignment. Stay until the end, because what you're about to receive is not motivation, it's revelation. And for the chosen ones, for those who are ready, life is about to shift in ways that will shock, elevate, and forever redefine what you thought was possible. There are moments in life when something shifts quietly, without fireworks, yet nothing is ever the same afterward. You didn't imagine what you sensed. You weren't overthinking or drifting into fantasy. What happened was permission. For a brief moment, God lifted the edge of the curtain, not to overwhelm you, but to prepare you. You were allowed to notice what most people move past their entire lives without questioning. That awareness wasn't random. It arrived precisely when your capacity to handle it had grown. Many people assume that if God reveals something, it should feel comforting right away, but deeper truth often arrives heavy before it arrives peaceful. The mind scrambles to reorganize itself when an old framework no longer holds. You saw that life is not as rigid, predictable, or limited as you were taught, and once that realization lands, you can't simply go back to autopilot. God didn't show you more because you were special in ego, but because you were ready in responsibility. This kind of sight is not about superiority, it's about stewardship. When you are trusted with deeper understanding, you're also trusted with deeper discipline. That's why this awareness didn't come with applause or clarity, it came with weight. God revealed more because your next season requires you to operate with intention, not instinct. You're being trained to move consciously, not reactively. The pressure you felt afterward wasn't a sign that something went wrong. It was evidence that something began. When your internal world expands faster than your external life can adjust, tension is inevitable. Think of it like growing pains. The body stretches before it strengthens. Your awareness outpaced your environment, and that gap created discomfort. Pressure often shows up when old explanations stop working. Conversations that once felt normal now feel shallow. Goals that once motivated you suddenly feel hollow. This isn't dissatisfaction, it's misalignment. God didn't remove your peace, He disrupted your comfort. There's a difference. Comfort keeps you still. Pressure moves you forward. Most people numb this phase. They distract themselves, explain it away, or force themselves back into familiar routines. But you didn't. You stayed present in the tension, even when it was confusing. That's important. Pressure, when endured consciously, becomes precision. It sharpens your discernment and teaches you what no longer belongs in your life. At some point, you realized that life doesn't respond only to effort. It responds to alignment. That realization alone changes everything. You saw that two people can work equally hard and receive completely different outcomes, and that difference isn't always talent, luck, or timing. It's posture. It's inner coherence. Reality feels fixed when we're fragmented inside, when our thoughts argue with our emotions and our actions contradict our values. Life resists us. But when those inner pieces begin to move together, circumstances shift in subtle but undeniable ways. Opportunities appear where there were walls. Conversations change tone. Timing improves without forcing. God wasn't teaching you how to control reality. He was showing you how reality was designed to respond. Not to striving, not to anxiety, not to constant proving, but to clarity and faith working together. This isn't mystical escapism. It's spiritual mechanics, and once you notice it, you start moving differently. There's a point where growth stops being gradual and starts feeling abrupt. You didn't suddenly become someone else. You crossed a threshold. Your tolerance for misalignment dropped. What you once endured now exhausts you. What you once ignored now demands attention. This is not sensitivity, it's accuracy. Reaching this level doesn't mean life gets easier immediately. It means life gets honest. You begin to sense when something is off before it collapses. You feel resistance in your body before it becomes chaos in your life. That awareness can feel lonely because not everyone around you is operating at the same depth of perception. But this stage is also where momentum begins. When your internal state stabilizes at a higher level, you stop leaking energy into confusion. Decisions become cleaner. Prayer becomes more focused. You're no longer asking for everything. You're asking for what aligns, and that precision accelerates response. The reason your old strategies suddenly failed isn't because you became weaker. It's because you outgrew them. What once helped you survive cannot help you ascend. God intentionally allows familiar tools to lose effectiveness so you don't mistake repetition for progress. This can feel frustrating, even frightening. You try harder, apply the same discipline, repeat the same patterns, and nothing moves. That's because this season isn't about effort, it's about recalibration. You're being asked to shift how you approach life, not how much you push against it. Old methods rely on control. New seasons require trust and responsiveness. God isn't taking options away to punish you. He's narrowing your path so your energy isn't scattered. When fewer options remain, clarity increases, and clarity is the doorway to the next level. Have you ever noticed that when your mind, heart, and actions all point in the same direction, life seems to yield to you? That's not luck, it's alignment. External obstacles soften when internal chaos resolves. Suddenly, what once felt impossible becomes effortless, not because the world changed, but because you changed the way you stand within it. Alignment is invisible work. It's the quiet hours of reflection, the moments when you resist reacting impulsively, and the discipline of letting go of thoughts that contradict your truth. Most people look for breakthroughs outside themselves, but the real shift begins inside. When your values, intentions, and choices harmonize, the resistance that once defined your life can no longer hold you. Think of it like a river carving a canyon. The water doesn't fight the rock. It flows with purpose, pressure applied consistently in one direction. Your inner alignment is that flow. When the pieces inside finally match, delays collapse, situations that seem stuck release, and people often misinterpret your breakthrough as luck, unaware of the internal work that made it inevitable. Elevation rarely comes gently. God often removes anchors, not to punish, but to propel you forward. This can show up as endings in relationships, job shifts, or shattered routines that once felt safe. Familiar structures, the patterns that comforted you, are dismantled so that your life can rise to a level where they no longer belong. At first, this feels like loss. You grieve what you thought was permanent, and you question why things that worked so well before suddenly fail. That's normal. The truth is, the tools, habits, and people that carried you through one season cannot carry you into the next. Divine elevation requires release before expansion. Think of it like pruning a tree. The gardener removes branches, not because the tree is failing, but because the cuts allow new growth, stronger and higher than before. The discomfort, isolation, or sudden change you feel is not an accident. It is the shaping of your life toward a higher frequency, a level where your old safety nets could no longer reach. You've been taught to hustle, to push, to force results, but there comes a threshold where doing more actually hinders your progress. At a certain frequency, life no longer responds to struggle. It responds to alignment. You're no longer competing with circumstances, you're moving in rhythm with them. At this point, clarity replaces force. This doesn't mean you stop taking action. It means your actions come from intuition, understanding, and alignment rather than panic or habit. Doors begin to open in ways you didn't engineer. Conversations shift, resources appear, timing synchronizes, all without you trying to control every variable. Your inner state sets the conditions, and life begins to echo it. It's like tuning a musical instrument. If you play with tension or force, the sound is harsh. When tuned correctly, even a gentle touch produces resonance. Your vibrational alignment is that tuning, and once it's achieved, response flows naturally, effortlessly, and powerfully. When God prepares someone for elevation, solitude often precedes revelation. You may feel disconnected, misunderstood, or as though you no longer fit where you once belonged. Don't fear this. What feels like exile is actually preparation. Separation is the space required for transformation. Isolation isn't always physical. Often, it's emotional or spiritual. Conversations that once nourished you now feel shallow. Group dynamics that once made sense now clash with your perception. This discomfort is intentional. It signals that your frequency is shifting, creating a dimensional separation from the old environment that cannot contain your next phase. Consider it like a cocoon. To emerge as a butterfly, the caterpillar must surrender all familiar structures and endure confinement. Only in this space of apparent solitude does the body, and in your case the consciousness, rebuild itself to a higher form. God uses isolation not as punishment, but as a necessary incubator for your expansion. Have you ever noticed that after a certain point, life seems to flow differently? Conversations, opportunities, even timing itself begins to respond rather than resist. What once required struggle now manifests with clarity. This is not magic. It is the universe responding to someone who has aligned with its design. When internal alignment reaches its threshold, reality stops pushing back. People and situations that once felt immovable now bend to meet you. You experience synchronicity without force, direction without chasing, and provision without frantic striving. It feels effortless because it finally is. The external world mirrors your internal coherence. This stage can feel surreal at first. Others may call it luck, coincidence, or charm. But you know better. Every opportunity, every breakthrough is a reflection of your inner state. The key is not to chase results, but to maintain the clarity, faith, and integrity that brought you here. Response is the reward of alignment, not the fruit of anxiety or effort. Before you see results in the outside world, God works quietly inside you. This is the invisible upgrade, the recalibration of your mind, your heart, and your spirit. Most people only notice the breakthrough, never realizing the long, meticulous process that made it inevitable. What feels sudden is actually the culmination of weeks, months, or even years of unseen preparation. During this time, you may feel invisible, ineffective, or stuck. That's a sign the upgrade is in motion. Your old habits, thought patterns, and comfort zones are being replaced by new capacities, intuition sharpened, discernment heightened, and faith deepened. You may not understand the significance yet, but your internal foundation is being rebuilt on a higher frequency. Think of it like a seed germinating underground. You see no movement at first, only soil and darkness. Then, seemingly overnight, a sprout breaks through. That sprout is the breakthrough everyone notices, but the unseen growth beneath the surface was the true work. This hidden upgrade is the reason your next chapter will feel effortless, even miraculous. Something that has defined your story is about to shift. It may be a long-standing blockage, a limiting pattern, or an area where you've felt powerless. When it breaks, it will feel sudden and liberating because it is not the result of pushing harder. It is the natural outcome of the work already done within you. This could take many forms: clarity about your purpose, sudden provision where there was scarcity, recognition you've been seeking, or a shift in direction you never thought possible. The common thread is that it feels like a release you couldn't have manufactured on your own. It's the fruit of alignment meeting opportunity, and it may shock you with its timing and precision. Understand this: the breakthrough isn't just about change, it's about freedom. The patterns that held you in place will no longer apply. What once felt impossible becomes inevitable, and you finally experience the reward of faith integrated, not fragmented. The liberation you feel is a preview of the life you were always capable of living. When your inner world aligns and reality begins responding to you, others notice, but often in ways that confuse them. They may call it luck, coincidence, or things just working out because they don't see the invisible work that made it happen. What feels natural to you appears extraordinary to them. This shift can alter relationships, dynamics, and expectations. People accustomed to seeing you in one way may struggle to reconcile the new version of you. It's not arrogance, it's evolution. The frequency you now operate on simply cannot coexist comfortably with outdated perceptions, and that dissonance may surprise those closest to you. Yet this shock is part of the divine design. God does not elevate quietly for the sake of appearances. Transformation is meant to ripple outward, challenging the environment around you to adjust to the new reality you carry. How others perceive it is irrelevant. What matters is the coherence of your own internal alignment. There's a profound difference between a door and a barrier. A door grants passage to a new room. A barrier separates dimensions. God isn't just giving you access to another experience. He is raising you to a new plane where the rules you've known no longer apply. Once you cross it, you cannot return to previous ways of thinking, choosing, or tolerating. This barrier is not a challenge to scare you. It's an invitation to expansion. It marks the line between operating within limitations and functioning in alignment with divine design. When it opens, you begin to perceive and respond to reality differently, seeing hidden patterns, opportunities, and truths that were invisible before. Crossing this threshold changes everything. Decisions are no longer forced, relationships are filtered naturally, and your energy is protected by a new level of awareness. Life doesn't feel harder, it feels purer, more precise, and more responsive. You don't escape reality, you finally understand how it works. After experiencing this level of awakening, life itself transforms from a series of reactions into a dance with purpose. You cannot unsee what you have seen. The boundaries you once accepted, the limitations you once tolerated, and the patterns you once followed now feel foreign. Life is no longer something that happens to you. It is something that responds to you. This doesn't mean every challenge disappears. Hardship still exists, but it is no longer random or oppressive. It becomes instructive, a signal for recalibration rather than a force to exhaust you. You perceive timing, opportunity, and alignment in ways that others cannot, and your actions carry far more weight because they emerge from clarity, not chaos. In the end, the transformation is not just external, it is total. The person you were before this revelation cannot coexist with the awareness you now hold. You've crossed a threshold of consciousness that empowers you to live with intention, faith, and precision. Life responds not because it is forced, but because you have learned to exist at a higher frequency, where alignment itself becomes your most potent force.